Leads.
Okay, so welcome everybody, a big welcome. So my name is Caroline, and this is the International Somatic Coaching Network, and we have the lovely Robin Athey with us as our guest speaker, and I'm very excited. I met Robin a number of years ago at the Growth Edge Network, and she's just wonderful. Yeah, and she's going to do something around somatic discernment. It's going to be very interactive. I will put stuff in the chat, but if you haven't got bits of paper to be able to stand on and space, then while I'm talking about ISEN, then please do that. I will just put that in the chat. So I'm just going to put that in the chat.
You
So
need a few pieces of paper, or you can just take A4 or 8.5 by 11 paper and tear it into bits. You won't need very big pieces, but you will need just some paper that you'll be standing on. And you also need a bit of space to move around. So as long as
yeah.
you have a few steps, in either direction, if you
Lovely.
do
Yeah, and
get
thank you,
some.
Christopher, for leaving and coming with your echo. Not that I noticed it. So I'm just going to say, in terms of us here, this is a place for us to find people. Well, I basically wanted to find people, cool people, to share my love of somatic coaching. And so that's what I've got in bundles, absolutely, about integrating brain, body, and spirit transformation in a complex world. So this is very relevant today and a place of ease for us. So we're the right people here, and I think this is going to be a very spacious session. So Robin, I'm not going to do a big introduction. I'm going to hand over to you. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Caroline. And hi, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're in Central Europe, it's really good to be with you. And I think I'm actually going to skip an introduction because you could just Google and learn more, go to LinkedIn. Please reach out by LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect. What I want to do is go ahead and dive in so that we do have some space. And we're going to be exploring today a topic that's very familiar for our clients, and that's pretty familiar for all of us too. And excuse me, I might be glancing over at my notes every now and then because I've structured this whole session and I want to make sure I don't go off topic. But the gist is that we're living in complex and unsettling times, and even that unsettlement has been ramping up in just the last week. So there's a great deal moving in the wider world. And that uncertainty can sit quietly and sometimes not so quietly in our nervous systems. We're all subject to what I call invisible stress, the kind of stress that creeps up and we didn't even know it was there. And it can accumulate gradually. And what we're going to be doing today is being able to discern, just doing some somatic exercises. We're going to be doing a few of the many somatic exercises you might do, but we're going to be practicing with discernment of what is the kind of choice that might come from urgency, and how do we distinguish that from truth and clarity. Um, we're going to be distinguishing like overfunctioning that can feel like responsibility, or contraction that can masquerade as intuition, as we know exactly what needs to happen. These things can often be challenging to discern in our bodies. And so we'll be doing a few exercises around that. And it's a chance today to just slow down. We're going to spend very little time in theory. We're going to be working with embodied practices that help us to just notice when we slow down how our attention can narrow and how we can open it back up again. So before we go into a first exploration, let's go ahead and take a moment now just to arrive here. And if it feels comfortable for you, place both of your feet on the ground, and really feeling the contact with the ground. your shoes, your socks, the earth. You can imagine the soles of your feet spreading to really receive the support that's beneath you. And you can let your spine lengthen gently. Allow your gaze to soften. And allow your exhale to be slightly longer and slower than usual. And you can take a snapshot of what it's like to be you right now and just notice the pace that you're arriving with today. Is there a kind of urgency, a steadiness, maybe a lot of thoughts or sensations? Maybe there's spaciousness. We're not adjusting anything, we're just noticing. So we'll be taking some of what you're noticing today forward. For now, I want to mention that Caroline had sent out a note about questions to reflect on before we came into today. And some of you may have had a chance to reflect on those. And if you did, that's great. You can bring them into your exercises today. If you didn't have a chance to reflect on those questions, that's okay too. We're going to start fresh from where we are. So let's go ahead and start with the first exploration. I want you to bring to mind a recent situation where you felt some mild irritation or pressure. Could be an experience you were having with yourself or something that was happening externally. Just something that has a little bit of a charge to it. Allow the situation to come into your awareness. And as you bring it to mind, notice what happens in your body. Where do you feel tightening? Maybe in the chest or the jaw, the abdomen. Maybe you feel a weight. What happens to your breath? Does it become shallow or faster? Does your body lean forward and dig down, move away? What has your body learned? And notice too any impulse that might come next, to go away, to stay quiet, to explain, to act. Stay with the physical sensation without acting on it, just for a few moments to get to know it. Again, what has your body learned as its habit? So taking a moment and just noticing, how does your discernment, what happens with your discernment? Often it's in these moments that are just happening habitually in our bodies that are contraction, our bodies contract to preserve energy, to go into action, just noticing what the taste is for you. And we're going to go into your first breakouts. You're going to be going into pairs. So we're going to bring your voices into the room a bit later. For now, we're going to keep going with this exploration. And we're going to explore contrast. And it's in contrast that we often can see things more clearly. And so I want you, while you're here and you're coming in, to allow your body again to take on the posture that you noticed earlier, that you were just talking about. If you want, you can slightly exaggerate it as much as you feel comfortable on screen. And just notice again what shifts. Does your body lean forward or back? Does it tighten, contract, or maybe even you don't feel anything? Yeah, Colleen's sharing her shoulders collapse in. I'm just noticing the breath. And then pause. We just need a little snapshot. And now we're going to shift. And in this shift, I want you to first just allow your eyes to gaze around the room that you're in. Maybe they settle somewhere all by themselves on a favorite object or color. Just taking in right now that right now everything's okay. In this familiar place. And feeling your feet on the ground and your seat on the chair. And you can allow your eyes to gaze softly downwards in front of you or to gently close. And with a long inhale, imagine your breath going through the crown of your head to the sky. And with a long exhale, going deep into the ground. We're allowing our breath to travel vertically through our bodies. With a long inhale, there's an uplift through the crown of the head to the sky. Long exhale, there's a settling. Long inhale, there's an uplift, lengthening your spine and the back of your neck. Even longer exhale, letting your shoulders settle. And softening your chest, your shoulders, your jaw. And think of something or someone that makes you smile. And imagine your presence with a smile expanding in all directions. Your front, your back, to the sides, filling the room. And then from this place, bring back the original scenario that you were working with. And just notice what feels different. What becomes clearer. Clarity tends to return to us as our system settles. So we're going to go back into breakout again. And you're going to be with different people this time. You'll have 8 minutes. And you'll be sharing with each other just a little bit about, if you want, your original context, what you noticed in your body around your imprints, your habitual pattern that goes into some kind of stress or contraction, and then what changed. And I'm going to go ahead and put into chat some questions that you can respond to.
Okay, so Robin, I'm just about to open the rooms. I've put you as co-host so that you don't get pulled in, so I hope that that will work. Are you
All
ready
right.
for me to open the rooms?
Yep.
Fantastic. Oh, no.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. So we have one more exercise, and when we're complete with that, we'll be all together and bringing everyone's voices into the room. For now, let's do this one more exercise. We're going to work with a live decision that you are holding. And it could be something that has a little bit of a charge where you're really not feeling quite clear what you're going to be doing. It doesn't have to be your most significant life decision. It could be anything from, I really don't know what to make for dinner tonight or have for dinner tonight, or it could be something that has a little bit more juice to it. And for the purpose of this exercise, well, let's go ahead and gather your pieces of paper, and I'll just walk you through this. And if you have, one sheet of A4, 8.5 by 11 paper, you can just tear it. You're going to need 3 individual pieces. And they don't have to be huge, just big enough to write something on. And here's what you're going to write. For today, for this exercise, you're going to be playing with just 2 possible outcomes or options of your decisions. You might have 3 or 4, and you can do that afterwards. But for now, we're just going to play with 2 options so you can get a sense of how this works. So on your first piece of paper, you can write a word or phrase that describes your first option with your decision. We'll call that option A. On the second piece of paper, you're going to write a word or phrase that captures the essence of your of a second option. We'll call it option B. And on the third piece of paper, you're going to write the word wait. W-A-I-T. And so in the room where you are, if you're able to stand and clear a small space where you can move in different directions, go ahead and do that. And choose a place to stand that would represent your current reality where you're facing this decision. Just choose a place on the floor that represents your current reality. And then go ahead and put the pieces on the floor in different places. And you can sense this energetically. Where would you want to put option A? Where would you want to put option B? And where would you want to put weight? We'll move through these slowly. And now, once you have your pieces of paper on the floor, take another moment. So returning again to this, your place of origin, we can call it, that represents your current reality. Let's take a moment here and we're just going to center again as we did before. Now you're standing. Take a moment to feel your feet on the floor. You might want to come slightly onto the balls of your feet. Often as Westerners, we hang back on our heels. I'm going to invite you just to really feel the balls of your feet on the floor. And taking again a long inhale through the crown of the head to the sky, and a long exhale deep in the earth. Allowing your breath to travel along a vertical axis in your body. Inhale, you're lengthening your spine and the back of your neck. A long exhale, letting your shoulders settle. Softening your chest and shoulders, your jaw. Remembering again something that brings a smile. Noticing the space to your sides, in front of you, the back. Filling your presence in this space, allowing your presence to fill all around you. And from here, when you're ready, I want you to step into the space representing option A. And notice what it's like to move towards option A. As you fully inhabit that as an option that you could take. And standing there quietly, notice your breath, your posture, your shoulders, your jaw. As you fully inhabit this option, what happens to your vision, your clarity? And notice your inner tempo, the speed and rhythm of your nervous system. Does your energy feel slow or quick, pressured or steady? What happens to your sense of time? Does your body lean forward, brace, hold? Or does it soften? Just staying with your bodily experience, noticing. What happens to your energy? And then when you feel like you have a good snapshot of that and a sense of what happens with your body in this option, you can come back to your place of origin. And here, take a breath again. Let your system settle. Feeling your feet on the ground. Long inhale, longer exhale. Softening your chest, your shoulders, your jaw. Noticing the space around you to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back. Feeling your center. And then from this place of center, move towards option B and notice what it's like to move towards it as an option. And as you fully inhabit option B, notice again what happens to your breath, your posture, shoulders and jaw. What happens to your sense of movement, stillness. Noticing your inner tempo. Does your energy feel quick or slow? Pressured or steady? How does your body orient? Yeah. How does your body orient? I'm appreciating how some of you are taking care of yourselves in this space. So just noticing. And then when you feel ready, you can go back to your place of origin. And feel your feet. Take a breath, a moment to center again. Contact with the floor, long inhale, longer exhale. Allowing your breath to travel vertically through your body. Allowing shoulders to soften, chest, jaw, just softening with uplift and dignity. And then when you're ready, you can step into your third possibility, which is to wait. And what happens here? What happens if you decide not to decide for now? What happens in your body? Is there relief, restlessness, space, or discomfort? What's your inner tempo? Does your system settle, stir up? Just noticing. And then when you're ready and you have a snapshot of this, you can return back to your place of origin. And here you're in your current reality. And you can say thank you to all the spaces that have provided you information. And we'll come back together to the screen. If you want, take a moment and just jot down what you noticed. I have a few moments here to write, and I'm going to just offer a few questions if they're helpful. I'll put them in chat. So just taking a moment to reflect on how you felt activation. How did you know that in your body? How did you know a sense of coherence? How did that show up in your breath, in your muscles, maybe in the tempo, the inner tempo that you felt? And what surprised you? We're going to go back into pairs, and you're going to have 10 minutes with each other. And putting some questions in the chat that can inspire your inquiry. Share what feels most present for you. What are you learning about yourself? When there's irritation or pressure in your system, it can be very subtle. And what are you learning around clarity and coherence, where it's easier to receive signals that are more true than what happens under urgency or pressure? And so we'll come back into this room at 5 past.
So, Robin, do you want people to be in the same rooms or recreate?
That's a good question. I'm sensing to mix things up again, just to create a little bit of freshness.
And the other thing is, we've had one person leave. Oh, no. Yeah, so
Yeah. So
no, yes, we have
have
some.
we'll have one triad then.
Okay, okay. Right, so I'm opening the rooms. Well, I was fiddling. Oh, I'm just going to pause recording.
Okay. Come back. So now we have time together till the bottom of the hour, just to share. And let's start. We're going to take a few minutes I'll guide us through some inquiry just to draw this together. Um, so, based on your experience this morning, uh, what did you learn about noise in your system? that might distort your signals of clarity or truth. Like, what did you notice about that? Anybody who wants to pop in, we'll have a few people and then we'll go into some other questions.
Sorry, Robin, would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah. So when you did the exercise where you noticed, what happens when you feel a kind of irritation or challenge or difficulty, there are ways that your body will habitually respond. For some people, there can be a contraction. For some people, they might even feel a little blank. There's so many different ways, usually based on our past, that our body learns to navigate, when difficulty comes up, when stress comes up. And so we could call that noise in your system. And why I'm calling it noise is that these contractions, or whatever it happens to be, for me, I used to numb out sometimes, that would create a kind of distortion in my clarity around things, you know? I can just share that, even this week, a friend brought up something for me that felt quite triggering, and I could feel how I was already distorting. I wasn't able to really be present with her and to hear what she was sharing because my system went into a pattern of distorting that signal. And then I went into kind of a defense. I often explain, these are my impulses, that I habitually go into. And when that happens, it creates noise in the system. I take a system, something that's already noisy. The world is plenty noisy right now. And then I can contribute to it. And so what we're doing here is in discernment and somatic discernment is learning what are some of those habitual kind of subtle things that happen that can distort that signal of clarity. And then what happens, we'll go to that next, when that relaxes and we can perceive things more clearly. This is happening for our clients all the time and for us. So these are little exercises. So we're starting with, when you experience a challenge, like what happened? My body tightened, my jaw gripped, whatever it happens to be, and just bringing voice to some of that. Maybe I felt like effort. I have to get responsible, whatever that happens to be. So just sharing a few voices here. What happened for you?
I'm happy to share something around something I perceived was how much energy I spend. That first exercise that you offered was around feeling, the contrast, the feeling, how my body responded to the situation, and then from a centered place, what clarity I gained. And it felt like the clarity I gained was I don't need to spend so much energy. Like I don't need to use that much energy in that particular situation, because from a centered space, I was just staying there and just watching. And from that first place, I was retracting, moving away, and then going back because that relationship is important. And so I go back to and it felt like I used so much energy just to do that. And that's the clarity I gained, was like, I don't need to spend that much.
Wow.
But
relief, huh?
yeah, it is. And I guess also maybe because it was a situation in a relationship, I feel like from that first space of contraction, you said sometimes we distort things. I think I might distort the intention of the person. Like I'll make up a story like of what's going on for the person. And it is also using too much energy for nothing, because then I'll just be, not only will I react to the situation, but also to the story I made up about it.
Yeah. Anybody else notice a pattern like that? Yeah, me too. Thank you, Margot. And Colleen writes, she noticed like heaviness, oppressiveness in her session, in her body. This is around the decision making. She tried another option where it was light, just familiar pressure, like no biggie. And then waiting brought up kind of butterflies in the stomach, a queasiness, feeling trapped, impatient. So this kind of signals that we have. Our body has so much wisdom. And, as we keep practicing this, we're distinguishing between what is old pattern, these feelings of heaviness, oppressiveness, queasiness, like those can be related to the past, in some way, or maybe not. Maybe it's a current just wisdom that's playing out. But doing these kinds of exercises can help us to discern, what is clarity of signal. The more we try, the more we practice. Who else would like to share? What did you notice? Yeah. Is it Lucia?
Yeah. Yeah.
Lucia.
So I was working with Beth, and I was saying I'm not very good at choosing small things. So my was quite big. I won't go into the details of what it was, but very charged for me at the moment, and I'm kind of coming out of a storm around it, I guess. And option A was like the bad one. So I knew I wouldn't enjoy that. And nobody's supposed to say bad, but anyway, it was the bad one. But that's kind of where I was looping. And then I went into option B thinking, here we go. This is where I should be. This is the good one. And I stepped, and that's when I put my hand on my heart and my stomach. But I'd noticed, and then and it was good, but it was charged positively, and it was only when I went on to wait, and this was really unexpected. Then I just found, whoa, this is a sense of peace, and it showed me that my nervous system isn't ready to make a decision, and that there's like, I think we sort of live in so much sort of belief in self-determinism that we're sort of pushing ourselves to be, or anyway, for me anyway, that the good option was actually not the right option for right now, and that what my nervous system needs in order to be able to move forward in a way that's resourced is a period of peace. But Beth noticed, so when in the first position, I experienced the real pain in my sort of, it's not your actual heart, but in that sort of center of my chest, the heart chakra, I suppose. And then when I gave my self-support, it was on the heart and belly. And then I hadn't noticed this, but Beth reflected back that when I talked about the weight option, that my hand went to my heart. So there's obviously a lot happening there. But yeah, it wasn't a supportive, it was just it felt like a congruent move when I reflected on the weight. So yeah, I guess that's given me a huge amount of clarity. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucia. It's, hearing you share reminds me that there's intelligence in all of this information that we receive. There's intelligence in all of it. And when we can feel weight, remember that we centered before we stepped into these options. So you're coming in with a little bit of capacity for a clearer signal. So in that context, as you're feeling weight, as you're feeling pressure, however that is, we can discern it as a clearer signal. Sometimes when we're under a lot of pressure and stress, we may not even notice that we feel weight, and then we're making decisions from that place, from that pressure. And that's what we're playing with. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, our bodies have adapted to be where we are. You've probably heard this a bunch. Like, if our ancestors hadn't done all the things they did and adapted, with all of these imprints that we have, we wouldn't be sitting here and having this conversation. And so there's nothing wrong with any of it, but we're listening for a clearer signal. And that's something I find that it's helping to do more and more with clients, as they're making decisions and under a lot of pressure and under a lot of urgency. And how do we clarify those signals? And that's what I'm hearing you speak to today. So as you think about your clients, let's just turn to clients for a moment. What are you noticing if you have one client in particular or a couple clients, or if you're not working with a client right now where this is coming up, could be somebody, a friend or somebody, in your family, where you just notice that there might be making decisions out of contraction, out of pressure, out of urgency, and maybe even mistaking that for clarity. Again, when things feel urgent, we might think that we're really clear. We need to move fast. That's the clarity. Just reflecting for a moment. You might want to jot down some notes if you notice you're working with anyone or know someone. What are you noticing?
Robin, if I could say, what I notice actually is how hard it seems to be for people to do this on their own. Somehow about being witnessed with somebody else and unconsciously and intentionally putting ourselves into a space where we bring this. It's like a whole wealth of information. And yet, I include myself, can have the intention to be more aware. But it's so much harder when we're not with other human beings. And, for me, that's why these kinds of communities are really important, because actually it's a place where we have other human beings who are like, yes, actually, this is really, I think Lucia talking about the heart. This is a place where the whole of us, our heart, our soul, our spirit, as well as our beautiful brains. It's like something about when you welcome all of that, all of this information comes in, and also not in a way that feels overwhelming. It feels like it comes in a way which is okay enough to be able to notice it and do something about it. So thank you. I'm really loving this conversation.
I was just thinking, listening to what Caroline said, leading on from that, the world is just not built for what you've just described now, is it? So coming to a place and a space and doing this work and connecting with each other, doing this work for ourselves and how we apply it to those that we work with, is maybe not pushing back on the world, but it's making sure that we don't lose all this wealth of wisdom and beauty and spirituality that's available to us underneath technology and process and complexity and all the other things that are going on.
Yeah. Sarah, I appreciate what you shared about not getting lost under all the technology and everything. I've really been in my own experiments with AI, noticing how incredibly important it is to stay in touch with true intuition, kind of intuition that comes from life, from a greater intelligence. And it can be easy, to lose that, to defer to the AI, the oracle who has all the answers.
And it feels so sort of generic to me and so standardized. The more I'm not sure that's right, but that's how it feels to me the more I see of it, which is so opposite to what we're doing today.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really seductive. I'll share briefly. As Caroline knows, I've been working on a book for a while. And in November, I was working with Chat and really having Chat just be a partner, And then at one point, Chat said, "Would you like me to write the first chapter?" I thought, all right, well, let's just see what happens, because I'd been working with it for quite a while and it already knew a lot. And what came back was jaw dropping, and it was so seductive. And then I went to a second chapter, and then I sent the a prologue in the first chapter to a couple of friends. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so you. This is brilliant. And I took a break for 6 weeks because I realized I couldn't go down that path. It was really seductive, to let AI just write. And it really had to reckon with myself, because I thought, oh my goodness, I could write this book in a month. Yeah. And to pull back from that seduction and just come back to know, like, you're going to have to step in. So now I've trained it to stop, to kick me out of the nest and just say, now go right.
Yeah, that's pretty seductive, isn't it? I can imagine. Okay, just take it over.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, and what we're doing here is really coming back to intuition, to a greater intelligence that lives through all of us. And I don't believe AI can quite match that yet, or technology, if ever. What else? What else are you noticing just about working with clients? Before we're going to come back actually to do a little closing exercise. But anything else that anyone wants to speak to right now?
I find it, sorry. I
Please
just find it.
I've already
Colleen.
taken up quite a lot of the airwaves.
Colleen's.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I find it increasingly difficult to, the more I learn, to kind of return to really being able to connect to where my clients are coming from when they haven't heard these concepts or expecting them. And you just see them pushing back so much, like their subconscious pushing back on possibilities, and their nervous system just like shutting them down in so many ways. So and it's interesting like how you get them to be able to connect to their intuitiveness and their flow.
Yeah. Does anybody want to speak to that? How do you work with that?
What I've been doing more recently is changing the coaching process throughout the relationship. So if I know I've got a certain amount of coaching sessions, I might be less emergent and a bit more coachy questiony in the first sessions. And then as time goes on, use more emergent processes. And then towards the end, like in the final session, I might not be coaching them at all. I might just be getting them to explore questions that they want to explore, and then sending them off for 10 minutes or 15 minutes to explore that question, notice what comes up for them, and then share that. And what I think I'm doing, been trying to work it out with my supervisor, is leaving them with the skills to reflect deeper, so that post-coaching they can do some of this stuff themselves. I think that's what's happening.
Right. Beautiful experimenting, Beth. It sounds like you're kind of in a laboratory and just seeing what happens.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It works really well for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll just share that for me, my practice is just meeting somebody wherever they happen to be. If they're coming in really fast and strong, I meet them there. And there's something in just that meeting of another human being that can help their soma to come down a little bit. There's this principle in NLP that I learned many years ago of follow, lead. So you're following, and you're kind of little by little kind of setting the pace. And then there's a point where you can start kind of leading more in the session and in supporting their soma to come into a regulated place. But I never start sessions by let's slow down or anything like that, because that can meet resistance. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I need someone to do this with me, like wherever I happen to be, and then we land somewhere else. So let's come back for yourselves. We'll take just a moment again to feel your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair. And where you are now, just allowing things to settle, noticing what feels steady in you. What's clearer in yourself now than it might have been earlier when we came into the session? What's clearer for you now? And you might just want to jot down a word or short phrase before we close. And so we'll close just going around the room. You might just want to say a word or phrase, short phrase of like what feels clearer for you right now. And I'll just say that, discernment is often subtle and things become clearer as our system settles. So we'll just go around the room and how about we have just a minute. I'll just go around the room. Christopher, a word or something you want to close with?
For me, the center of gravity doesn't have to have mental language.
Beautiful. Tina, how about for you?
I can trust myself.
Ooh. Beth?
I'm where I need to be.
Vicky?
It's easy to remember.
Colleen?
I know my path forward, and I know what's a distraction or what's going to make me feel resentment, maybe.
And Margot?
Something around being a bit softer with myself.
And Sarah?
Trust myself also.
And Lucia?
Making space to heal by making space to feel.
You're here. Amber, if you...
Yeah, believe.
What was it, Amber?
Believe it can be done.
Believe. Oh, beautiful. So thank you. We'll hang on for about 5 minutes if anybody wants to, if you have any other questions or just want to hang on. Caroline's putting in, Caroline, I'll let you take it from here.
Yes, I just wanted to put in the calls that we've got. So Kate Avery's had to drop out in April, so you've got me. I have been reading this book called The Good Ancestor, and I've been thinking very much about why am I doing this and what do I want, not just for me, not just for the next 5 years, but there's two concepts really. There's the cathedral concept, and then there's also the concept of 7 generations before that are coming, after you. And so it's an exploration for your own coaching legacy. And I'm hoping to also be able to use that to think about what that means for this network as well. So it will be a somatic exploration. Then in May, we've got Oren, and he is in America, and he's doing something around sort of a science-based approach and also that sense of, the modern world and how we're all. And then I've got Suva, and he's from India. And what I love about this is actually I've met him through this group, and he's going to kind of include how he got to somatic coaching and how he uses with leaders. So I want to do more of that, more kind of like how we got to where we are, as well as what we're doing. And then I've got Eleanor, who hasn't quite, she's going to be sharing her research. So yeah, and I'm looking for guest speakers as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Oh, thank you, Margot.
Yes, lovely.
Yeah, I can never replace presence.
Oh, thank you, Margot. Yes, yes. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah. I'm going to stop recording now, and we'll just carry on for a little bit, as you said.